I never imagined that after 20 years of marriage,
but
my
it's
life could
important.
unravel in a single morning.
We'll figure it out.
Living in a quiet suburban neighborhood in California, I thought we had built something permanent, a home filled with laughter, memories, and a sense of security that
Right? The
only
weather's
comes from
perfect.
decades of shared experiences. From the moment I met her in college, I knew she was the one. We were young, ambitious, and full of dreams. Together, we navigated the challenges of building careers, raising children, and supporting each other through losses and triumphs. I gave my heart, my loyalty, and my best years to her, believing she felt the same. Our mornings were usually calm. I'd make coffee, she'd prepare breakfast, and we'd exchange a few words before heading to work. That Thursday, however, everything felt off. She seemed distant, almost cold, as she sat at the kitchen table. I noticed the stack of papers in front of her and assumed they were bills or something mundane. But when she handed them to me, my heart stopped. Divorce papers. My mind couldn't process it. 20 years, gone. I stared at the documents, my hands trembling, my voice caught somewhere between disbelief and desperation. "Why?" I managed to whisper. She looked at me, eyes hollow, and said something about needing freedom, about finding herself. I felt betrayed, confused, and utterly lost. The woman I had celebrated birthdays with, who had stood by me through career struggles and family illnesses, now wanted to erase everything we had built. I tried to remember the last time she seemed truly happy with me. Was I blind? Had I missed the signs? Had the love we nurtured for so long been a facade, slowly fading while I remained oblivious? Walking around our home felt strange. The walls, once echoing with laughter and warmth, now seemed oppressive and alien. Each photo on the mantelpiece, weddings, graduations, family vacations, felt like a reminder of what was being taken away. I replayed every memory. Our first date in San Francisco, the nights we spent talking about our dreams, the comfort we provided each other during life's unexpected storms. All of it now seemed fragile, like glass ready to shatter. Friends and neighbors noticed the change in me. Casual greetings became awkward nods. The familiar streets and parks where we once walked together now felt like mine alone, though emptier than ever. I was surrounded by life, bustling, cheerful, moving forward, while I stood frozen, caught in a moment that seemed unreal. The realization hit me harder. 20 years of dedication, love, and sacrifice had no guarantee of permanence. I had given everything, yet it wasn't enough. And in that silence, I faced the bitter truth. Sometimes, even the deepest bonds are not immune to change, and even the most devoted hearts can be blindsided. As the sun set over our quiet neighborhood, I sat alone in the kitchen, the divorce papers still in front of me. My mind raced with questions, fears, and regrets. How did we get here? Could I have done something differently? Or was this inevitability, hidden behind 2 decades of smiles and shared memories? The answer didn't matter yet. All I knew was that my life had shifted irreversibly, and I would soon have to find a way to face the world without her by my side. The days after she handed me the divorce papers felt unreal. I wandered through our house like a ghost, surrounded by echoes of our shared life. Her laughter seemed to linger in the air, mocking me with memories I could no longer touch. I tried calling her, hoping for some clarity, some explanation that could make sense of this sudden unraveling. But each conversation ended with polite distance, a reminder that the woman I had known for 20 years was no longer the same person, or maybe she had been hiding a part of herself all along. I remembered the early years of our marriage in Los Angeles, how we shared a small apartment, each of us juggling demanding jobs and dreaming of stability. I thought those struggles had bonded us, strengthened our connection. We promised that no matter what, we'd face life together. Those promises now felt like cruel jokes. Her decision to leave didn't come after a fight or a disagreement. It was sudden, cold, and meticulously planned. The realization that she had been contemplating this while I assumed everything was fine cut deeper than I could have imagined. I found myself retracing our shared life, trying to spot missed signs, overlooked cracks. Did I ignore her dissatisfaction? Did I take her presence for granted? I remembered the nights she stayed quiet when I returned home exhausted from work, the subtle sighs, the moments I dismissed as fatigue. I thought they were trivial, but now they haunted me as unheeded warnings. Friends tried to console me, but words felt meaningless. How do you explain 20 years of love lost? How do you navigate a life that suddenly no longer includes the person who defined it? Our children sensed the tension. I tried to shield them, to present a calm front, but even they noticed the fracture. Dinner conversations became awkward, questions hung in the air about where she was and why things had changed. I wanted to protect them from the heartbreak I felt, yet the truth spilled out in glimpses, hurtful, confusing, and unavoidable. I realized that this divorce wasn't just mine, it rippled through everyone who loved her, everyone who had been part of our life together. In solitude, I sought refuge in the city streets of San Francisco, where our love had once felt invincible. Walking past the coffee shops where we met, the parks where we celebrated small victories, I felt a bitter nostalgia. The city moved on, indifferent to my pain. I realized that life itself had no pause button for heartbreak. People laughed, walked their dogs, sipped coffee, life continued while my world had collapsed. Yet, beneath the grief, a small ember of resolve began to flicker. I knew I couldn't remain trapped in despair. I needed to understand, to accept, and eventually to move forward. The pain was undeniable, but so was the necessity of survival. I owed it to myself, to my children, and to the memories worth preserving, to find a way through this. 20 years had shaped me, strengthened me, and though I felt betrayed, I also realized that my life was far from over. As night fell, I returned home, the city lights of Los Angeles flickering through our windows. The house felt emptier than ever, yet I sensed that change, painful, yes, but inevitable, was forcing me to confront a truth I had long avoided. Life does not always honor loyalty, and love, no matter how deep, can be fragile. The question now was not why she left, but how I would rebuild, and whether I could find strength in the ruins she left behind. The days that followed were a blur of legal appointments, sleepless nights, and the gnawing ache of loneliness. I hired a lawyer, not out of spite, but to understand my rights and protect what I had worked for. The process felt surreal, calculating assets, dividing possessions, drafting agreements, mechanical steps that contrasted sharply with the emotional chaos inside me. I stared at our home, once a symbol of comfort, now feeling like a stage for a trial I never signed up for. Each room held a memory: my daughter's first steps in the living room, my son's birthday parties in the backyard, and countless quiet nights where we just sat together talking about life. Now, all of it felt like evidence, each memory a reminder of what was slipping away. I tried to engage with her one last time, to plead for understanding or even an amicable resolution, but she remained resolute. The woman I had loved for 20 years was no longer reachable. Conversations felt like crossing a chasm with no bridge. Her words were precise, almost rehearsed: "I've made my decision. We need to move on." My heart refused to accept that. I went through old photos, letters, and keepsakes, hoping for a glimpse of the woman I knew, the partner I trusted. But every item seemed tainted by her sudden detachment, as if even the most intimate memories were now fragile relics of a life that no longer existed. Friends offered advice, some practical, some comforting, others blunt. "Move on," they said. "Life will go on without her." I wanted to believe them, but the thought of letting go felt impossible. I had given her the best years of my life, sacrificed my ambitions at times for family, and always tried to put her happiness first. And now, I was being asked to step into a future she would not share. It was more than heartbreak, it felt like betrayal. Even in the chaos, moments of reflection began to surface. I realized that clinging to anger and despair would not bring her back, nor would it heal the wounds in my own heart. I needed to redefine myself outside of the marriage, to reclaim my identity beyond the title of husband. I revisited hobbies I had long abandoned: running in Griffith Park, sketching again, even attending local photography classes. The world outside my grief was vast and full of life. Slowly, I began to feel sparks of resilience, small but persistent. The children were my anchor. I devoted myself to being present, to guiding them through the uncertainty with as much stability as I could muster. Bedtime stories, school drop-offs, weekend outings, all became rituals that grounded me when everything else seemed to crumble. In their laughter and questions, I found a reminder that life, though unpredictable and sometimes cruel, continued to move forward. By the end of the month, the divorce felt less like a sudden shock and more like an inevitable reality I would have to navigate. Pain was still present, but alongside it was a growing sense of determination. I realized that while she had chosen her path, I could still choose mine. And with that choice came a quiet, powerful realization: 20 years had not been wasted. They had prepared me for a future where I could stand on my own, resilient, wiser, and ready to rebuild a life beyond heartbreak. Months passed, and slowly, the raw edge of heartbreak began to dull. The house that once felt like a prison of memories started to feel like my own space again, a place where I could breathe, think, and slowly rebuild. I focused on myself, rediscovering interests I had shelved for decades: morning runs along the Santa Monica coastline, photography classes that reminded me to see beauty in ordinary moments, and small trips to cities I had always wanted to explore. For the first time in years, I was living for me, not for the life I had shared with her. The legal battle concluded eventually, not without stress, but with fairness. Dividing assets, arranging custody, and closing bank accounts was painful, yet each step brought a sense of closure. I realized that my focus should not be revenge or resentment, but the creation of a meaningful future. The divorce was a loss, yes, but also an opportunity to reclaim my agency, my identity, and my joy. I had given 20 years to someone else. Now, it was time to invest in myself. My children became my greatest source of strength. Even amid chaos, we laughed together, celebrated milestones, and forged new routines. I attended their school events with pride, helped them navigate teenage challenges, and even joined them on weekend hikes. Through them, I rediscovered purpose, love, and the ability to move forward without carrying bitterness. Their happiness reminded me that life, though altered, still held warmth and promise. I also began to reach out to friends I had drifted from over the years, reconnecting with people who reminded me of the person I used to be: curious, adventurous, and independent. Coffee dates, late-night conversations, and shared hobbies gradually filled the void left by the marriage. I realized that even though one chapter had ended, countless others were waiting to be written. The freedom to choose my path, to define my own happiness, felt empowering rather than frightening. One evening, as I watched the sunset over the Los Angeles skyline from our backyard, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't experienced in years. The pain of betrayal and loss was still there, but it no longer ruled me. I had learned that heartbreak, though excruciating, could transform into strength. I understood that 20 years of marriage had shaped me, prepared me for resilience, and given me a foundation to face the world with confidence. Life wasn't about erasing the past, but building upon it. I smiled, thinking about the future. There would be challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt, but I was ready to face them. I was no longer just a husband who lost his wife. I was a man who had survived betrayal, rediscovered himself, and embraced the possibility of new beginnings. The story of 20 years of love ending in divorce was painful, but it was also the beginning of a life I could truly call my own, a life of freedom, self-respect, and hope.